So when I went home and I told my dad, I said, now, Dad, I think I'm going to move to Dallas. My dad told me, he said, you know, people walking the streets in Dallas and just catching on fire so hot out there. I said, the people catching on fire? He said, yeah. He said, you ain't seen the news? They just walking down the street and it's so hot out there, they just catching on fire. I said, well, Dad, it's February. I don't think I'm going to catch on fire. So he was just like, he thought of every reason. And really, he didn't want me nor to take my 7-year-old son. Okay. Because my son is named after my dad as well. And so he didn't want me to, you know, take his grandson. Right. Even though he wasn't ready, I got pregnant my first year in college. So he wasn't ready for that either. And parents, again, even though I disappointed my dad in the sense of going off to college and getting pregnant, but the thing about it was he let me know how disappointed he was in me. Okay. And that's the thing that hurt me the most, was not so much I was pregnant, but I saw the hurt because he had so much planned for Diane and so much he would have done for Diane, until when I saw the hurt after I had to tell him, which my sister really told him she didn't give me a chance. I was scared to death. I was scared to death to tell him. So old motor mouth went on and told him. And so they didn't have the cliche then, snitches get stitches, but she would have got some. But again, my grandmother saved the day. But parents, if I say anything, even though he had to accept it, he had at least let me know how bad I hurt him and how disappointed he was in me.
But that hurt motivated you, didn't it?
It did, because my attitude was, I've disappointed you. It's a little bump in the road, right, and it's going to be with us for a while. Right. However, whatever I need to do, and I think that I spent the rest of my life trying to make sure I never saw that look in my dad's face again.
Welcome back to Big Texas Bossing. I'm your host, Leilani Wilson Jones. This is the show where we're spilling the Texas tea on the bosses that I know.
It's time for Big Texas Bossing with Leilani Wilson Jones. Spilling the tea on Bossing Up.
Welcome, Miss Community, Diane Gibson.
Well, thank you. Hi, family. So thank you so much. And in the words of Sheila Bailey, if God will forgive you for saying it, he'll forgive me for enjoying it here. So thank you so much. I am so honored to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. We are so glad you're here. And one of the biggest things we want to know is if you could tell us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to be a community leader and continue doing the things that you do on a daily basis.
Oh my God. I tell people every time that my dad would love to hear me answer that question. But it started, I'm the youngest of 5. And so in seeing my 4 sisters and brothers grow up, it was really strict because my dad was a Baptist preacher. So, you know, you couldn't do everything in a Baptist preacher household. Right. And I learned at an early age that my sisters would just go through so much trying to get out the house. My brothers, whatever they wanted to do, they could just go do it. So then I came to the conclusion, but you know, if I say I'm a part of the program, I couldn't just say, well, I want to go to the dance. But if I told him, you know, they got me taking up the money at the door at the dance. He was all for it. So I was like, that's pretty good right here. So as long as I'm an active participant in the event, I could do it. So needless to say, by the time I finished high school, he told me that, look, girl, it took me more to send you to school than it did your 4 brothers and sisters put together. So I just started at a young age of being in everything. I was in 4-H club, Girl Scout, Brownie. I was on the debate team. I was, you name it, Future Homemakers of America. I did it. Everything. I was in the choir. I took ballet.
Everything. You could do.
I mean, I did it all in school. And so then I played in the band. I decided I wanted to play the clarinet. Okay. And so I did all of that. But yes, and my dad has sponsored everything. Was a cheerleader for 4 years. And so
so where did you grow up and go to high school?
I actually grew up, you have to be from there not to understand where I'm from. Okay. It's a little place called Attapulgos, Georgia.
Oh, wow.
You know where Tallahassee, Florida is?
Yes.
22 miles from Tallahassee. The biggest joke was she was my cousin, but we called her my grandmother, called Mother. And so we would say in Mother's house, if you was in the kitchen, you was in Florida. If you went to the bedroom, you was in Georgia. Because she slayed on the Georgia and Florida line. So So that was right there in McCrayville, Georgia. But yeah, we're from Attapuggis. And then my senior year, the year of 73, 74, is when the schools decided to integrate.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up graduating from Bainbridge High School. But yeah, we integrated teachers first, and then some of the schools had integrated, but our school did not integrate. And so we didn't integrate until the year 73, 74. So we weren't too happy about that. We wanted to graduate from A&M because people would think it was FAMU, but it was really Attapuggis, Mount Moriah. But we would say we was from A&M because we all had the same colors. Right. Our school colors was orange and green, and FAMU colors was orange and green. So we would always say, you know what, especially when we got to be in high school, so where do you go? A&M.
Right.
Yeah, we weren't lying.
right. You weren't lying. It was just, it wasn't college. Right.
So we went from there, and then the rest is just kind of history after I grew up. And then I grew up in a household where all I saw my dad do was give. And now the mouth came from my mom. My dad wasn't a man that talked a lot.
Okay.
So my mom was the one that had all the mouth. But my dad was just a doer.
Okay.
And he would always tell us, to whom much is given, much is required.
Yes, that is my motto.
Yes.
So yes.
And so he would just always just give. And we didn't find out. Now we so crazy. My dad died about 10 years ago. So we didn't find out until we was at his funeral that I used to always say when he would shake people's hand, he would put his thumb in between his hand. And I'd be like, if you don't want to shake the people's hand, just don't shake the hand.
He was giving money.
Yes, and we didn't know it. And we so silly at his funeral when the man said that whenever he shook your hand and that thumb was in there, he was releasing money. I was like, oh, Lord, I was sick. Done talked about the man not wanting to shake the people's hand. I wanted to wake him up and tell him, I'm sorry. And so, natural people probably thought, they are really going crazy. This is a funeral. Because we didn't know. We always, I'm the mouth person, so my sisters would never challenge my dad. I was the one that always said, why don't you just not shake the man's hand if you don't want to really touch it? Because my dad wasn't a real people person.
Right.
But he was always the one that everybody would come to. We'd go, everybody just come up here. And you don't even like people. But he was always really helpful.
Nice.
And so I just saw it. And so I tell people, when you grow up in that environment, it's just a part of who you are. My grandmother would always say, a closed mouth don't get fed.
Right.
And so all he could say was yes or no. And the thing I would even say to parents now, the one thing I loved about my father and my grandmother, which was was my dad's mother, is they would always tell us, you can always disagree with us and you can always offer a suggestion. It's just in the manner in which you do it.
Right, absolutely.
And so they didn't make us, do it because I say do it. Oh no, because they know Diane had a comeback. I still to this day at 67 says, it just has to make sense to me. My uncle would even end it by saying, baby, if it don't make sense, it can't make change. So that's how, and everybody keeps saying I need to do a book on my daddy's sin because, oh my God, he had some. Hey. We had everything.
Nice.
And I tell people to this day at 67, I'm on nobody's medication.
Oh,
and that
awesome.
was because my grandmother, we used to tell Dad all the time, your mama gonna kill us. She gonna kill us. Because ain't nobody heard of all that stuff she got us taking. But my grandmother.
So what she have you taken?
One of the things I remember as a child, my mother would look in your eyes and say, come on, you wormy. What is they in my eyes? Because I always had a smart mouth. And she would just look at us. And so when she would look at you and determine that you was wormy, she would always say she would take a teaspoon of sugar and it had to be even on that teaspoon. And then she would take 3 drops. I want to say it was that 666 stuff. But she would take 3 drops and put it on that teaspoon of sugar. You had to then lay on the bed flat.
On your back?
On my back.
Okay.
And so then she would take a wood match. It couldn't be one of those other matches. It had to be the wood match. She would strike that match. Make sure naturally it's cool now. But she would take the black from that top of that match and do a complete circle around your navel. And then she'd tell you, now when you go to the bathroom, you call me. Do not flush. Call me when you go to the bathroom. And she was getting us to pass worms.
So she would be right.
She would do it, and I'd be like, dog. But we always said, grandmama's crazy because she always had to say. And then she would put in a mason jar, she would put natural garlic because she grew her own garlic.
Okay.
And so when we would go to her house, we'd always look at that window. Oh, Lord, she done took that mason jar out that window. So that meant, y'all got to drink some garlic juice today. So whenever we go in the house, we'd tip. And then if that garlic jar was out that window, it's like, Lord, we got to drink this garlic water. So we would have to drink that. But we would always say, we don't have to go to the doctor. Daddy just take us over here to his mama's house. And so, I don't know if you remember these little shades. They was $1 a piece. So we went to the little 10-cent store. Sammy said, everybody get some shades. Everybody get some shades. 105 of us walked in there like the 5 blind boys. My grandmother was like, I know y'all funny. Y'all trying to be funny. Yeah, we was like, we don't want you to look in our eyes. Don't look in our eyes. But she would clean our ears with some hot oil. The woman just decided that I'm just going to be a medical doctor.
Right, she knew it.
She knew it.
How long did she live to be?
My grandmother would say she was 92. My daddy said she was 101. My grandmother said she was 92. And if I tell you, she did not look like a real Cherokee Indian. The long, thin hair, the pretty, oh my goodness, she had the prettiest charcoal brown-like skin. And she probably wasn't this high. But we would always laugh because my dad, a big man, 6'3", and he was stocky. But he would just be this big when he was around here. All we had to do was say, you wait till we get over to grandmama's house.
We're going to tell it.
We're going to tell it. And he would always tell us, I wish y'all would stop. I was accident prone as a child. You name the accident, Diane could get in it.
Right.
We had a big yard because we was on like 10 acres. And so the front of the yard dropped down. So my dad said when it was time for me to start cutting the yard, I'm like, I'm not pushing no lawnmower. That's too much. And so Daddy got a John Deere riding lawnmower. Daddy said something just told him to walk to that front door. And just as he walked to the front door, crazy, riding the lawnmower and just went down. Me and lawnmower just tumbling over. Daddy said he was so scared to look down, he just knew. He said, but the lawnmower was on one side and I was on the other side.
That was good.
And he would just always say, Diane, I don't know why you trying to kill yourself. God has a plan for your life and you can't stop that. But that was something else. And I tell parents, you speak life into your kids.
Right.
What you do, and that's what he always said to me. God has a plan for your life. Now, he didn't outline the plan, but he would always tell me, no matter what I did, God has a plan for your life.
Right.
And so I think, and today if I had something to say to parents, is you speak life into your kids. I don't care what it is. My dad made me think there was nothing I could not do. But the other thing that I tell parents too, that I love everybody to know, that if you know Diane Gibson, you know she loved Doc Gibson and she loved the Lord. Those are two things you know she loved. But the thing about it was my dad always made sure I knew that he was an excellent provider. But in addition to that, he always let me know that even though we was kids, we knew if 200 bears was out there and they was chasing us, we'd be like, you can chase us now, but you wait till we get to Doc Gibson though. Yeah, all y'all gonna regret that y'all was chasing these Gibson kids. Yeah, but that's the kind of sense of protection he gave us. Because if it was bad weather, my dad did not sleep. If it was anything going on, he didn't sleep. And then we always thought, do you walk all night long? Because he'd be coming in, checking us. And so those were things, and I tell parents, now my dad didn't tell me until I was 27 that he physically loved me. He showed me every day, but he never verbalized it until I was 27. And I had moved to Dallas because normally when we tell him, we love you, you the same. Okay, well, we love you, you the same. And so one day I'm at work, called him, and I said, okay, Dad, I love you. He said, I love you. And I just still hung up the phone. And when I said, oh my God, that man said he loved me. And so I called back. And so he was like, okay. I said, did you know what you just said? He said, what? I said, say it again. He said, what did I say? I said, you said you love me. Oh. He said, I don't love you. I said, you ain't never said it. And he could not believe that at 27. So I called the other group too and told them, y'all tell him he ain't never told us that he loved us. But he showed us love.
Right.
He showed us, and my dad was born in 1918, so affection wasn't a thing.
Right.
But he showed us. He protected us. He provided for us. He was just a good caretaker. Now, I have to say this, too, because everybody always say, well, Diane, your dad wasn't perfect. No, he wasn't. He was a good father. My dad was married 7 times.
Oh, wow.
Yes, 7 times. And I always tell guys, I said, but here's the thing. If anybody said, Diane, right here, $1 million cash, if you can tell us a time that your dad was cheating, just one I couldn't do it. Because every morning we woke up at 6 o'clock, that's who woke us up.
Okay, so he raised you.
He raised
your dad. Your mother wasn't. Your mother didn't raise you.
My mother left when I was 6 months old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she left. It was so bad that she left me with my oldest sister, and she actually left me in a closet. And so in her mind, she didn't want us to roam through the house while she was leaving my dad. And so she put us in a closet and put a chair up against the door. Now, the sad part about it, I think my dad went to glory and never forgave my mama, bless his heart. But he was so angry, not about the fact that she took $2,500, not about the fact that she took a brand new station wagon. He was more upset that you left my child in a closet. And his mama stayed there, his sister was there, all his nieces and nephews was all there. She had to pass right by the place where he was working. And so he just couldn't understand that.
Right.
And so I was 6 months old when all of that took place. And after that, he had just bought a house, had just bought the new car. And then, in addition to her leaving him, he was working for Seabreeze Railroad. And he said it cut the tip of his finger off. So Daddy said, he said, that's it. He walked off the job. He said, the guy told him, you'll be back. And that's when he started doing farming and going into making sugarcane syrup. My dad only had a 4th grade education.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And
sounds like an amazing man.
He walked off a paid job with 5 kids and said, nope, I'm not coming back.
Right.
I'm going to just do things for myself. So I guess whatever you decide you can do. And he was a builder.
Put your mind to it, you can do it.
Even with a 4th grade education.
Absolutely. Well, tell us about your journey to Texas. How did we get from Florida to Texas?
My cousin Alexander graduated from Tuskegee Institute. And so we always have a family reunion in August. So when he came home in August, he said, okay, y'all, I'm graduating. I'm going to either LA or I'm going to Dallas. I have 2 job offers. And so I told him, I said, well, I tell you what, if you go to Dallas, I'll move with you. He was like, no, you serious? Yeah. I said, but I'm not moving to LA now. I can't do LA. And so December, when he came home, he said, okay, I took the job in Dallas. I said, are you serious? Because I was living in Tampa, Florida then. That's where I went to college. And then so I was living in Tampa. And he said, are you coming? I said, myself, I'm really joking, but I guess I will go. And so February 8th, 1982, I packed up everything I had. And it was so amazing because I wasn't going to move. Now, y'all don't hold me nothing, but I want y'all to know I'm human, okay?
Right.
So we had just got out of college and everything, and it was so funny. People were selling hot clothes. We was buying hot clothes.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, we would always say, but we were still Baptist kids. We loved the Lord and we knew the Lord. But they could get some nice clothes. Do you know that January, and my grandmother had this nice white comforter she had given me. They actually came back and took everything they had sold us. He just stole everything, broke in my house. So that's why it ain't good to buy hot stuff. And you guys, I was in my 20s then. I was young. I have grown. So we actually did that. And when they stole all my clothes and broke in my house, that was just, for me, okay, Diane, it's time for you to get out of town.
Right.
And so I went home and I told my dad, I said, because Tampa was only 4 hours. And so we weren't really that far from each other. So we could still love on each other and see each other and everything. So when I went home and I told my dad, I said, now, Dad, I think I'm going to move to Dallas. My dad told me, he said, you know, people walking the streets in Dallas and just catching on fire so hot out there. I said, the people catching on fire? He said, yeah. He said, you ain't seen the news? They just walking down the street and it's so hot out there, they just catching on fire. I said, well, Dad, it's February. I don't think I'm going to catch on fire. So he was just like, he thought of every reason. And really, he didn't want me nor to take my 7-year-old son. Okay. Because my son is named after my dad as well. And so he didn't want me to, take his grandson. Right. Even though he wasn't ready. I got pregnant my first year in college. So he wasn't ready for that either. And parents, again, even though I disappointed my dad in the sense of going off to college and getting pregnant, but the thing about it was he let me know how disappointed he was in me. Okay. And that's the thing that hurt me the most, was not so much I was pregnant, but I saw the hurt because he had so much planned for Diane and so much he would have done for Diane, until when I saw the hurt after I had to tell him, which my sister really told him she didn't give me a chance. I was scared to death. I was scared to death to tell him. So old motor mouth went on and told him. And so they didn't have the cliche then, snitches get stitches. But she would have got some. But again, my grandmother saved the day. But parents, if I say anything, even though he had to accept it, he had at least let me know how bad I hurt him and how disappointed he was in me.
But that hurt motivated you, didn't it?
It did, because my attitude was, I've disappointed you. It's a little bump in the road, right. And it's going to be with us for a while. Right. However, whatever I need to do, and I think that I spent the rest of my life trying to make sure I never saw that look in my dad's face again. Because the look in his face when he saw Diane was always possibilities. Okay. That's my baby. She going to be this. But the look when I had to share with him, yeah, I'm pregnant. Now, he did eventually get over it, but now it took him a minute to get over, because I told you the man is a Baptist preacher. Right. And so then the man called me a Jezebel. I said, oh, well, Lord. It wasn't funny then. I said, ain't no Jezebel. I know who my baby dad is. I am not a Jezebel. And so my grandmother was like, I done had enough. You ain't going to call her nothing. The man did not call me a Jezebel.
So your grandma put an end to all of that.
And so the next thing I know, he done called my baby's daddy. The poor man talking about, Diane, let's get married. I'm like, crazy, I can get a babysitter. I can't get no husband sitter. I am not getting married. Now, I made this mistake, and I'm wrong for it. But yeah, I'm not getting married. And daddy said, well, why you not getting married? Because I didn't even plan this. I'm not trying to make another mistake on top of another mistake. And so I cried, and he was like, well, you need to I am not getting married. Then the man told me, well, you ain't going to be able to sing in the choir no more. I said, I can't sing nowhere. So
he did you a favor putting you out the choir.
I said, Dad, Mr. Obadiah got 3 daughters in that choir. I'm always going to argue my argument now. A president has already been set. He has 3 kids in that choir, and all 3 of them had babies. And ain't neither one of them married. That man told me, do I look like Mr. Obadiah?
And what year was this?
This was 75.
Okay.
He said, do I look like Mr. Obadiah? Well, then you letting them sing in the choir. I don't know why I can't sing. But we got past that. And so here's what I did. I said, now, if I go and name this boy Damaris Doc Gibson, I got you. Okay. And true enough, my son's name is Damaris Doc Gibson. He been put out of my hand ever since. He was just happy. And then he got over, and when I told him I was getting ready to come, my son was 7 when I broke the news that I am going to Dallas. Right. And he kept telling me all these reasons why you can't come to Dallas. And really what he was saying is, that's going to be too far. I don't like flying, and I really don't want you to take the baby. No. So I said, okay. Then I decided I was going to be, because I'm 27 now. And I stood up, and my daddy was sitting at that desk like you're sitting there. I stood up and put my hand on that desk. I said, you do know I'm grown. See how you did? See how your face went? That's just how he did. I said to myself, girl, can I take that back? Can I take it back? He didn't say another word. Right. Nothing. Face just went blank. Right. I told her, girl, you done messed up so bad, it ain't even funny. And at 27, I had never paid bills. Didn't even know how to pay a bill, child. Had never had a real job.
Oh, wow. So you get to Texas.
Ooh, I get to Dallas,
and reality
Texas.
Kicks in.
Yes. Because I'm thinking, oh, he going to still send me money. I gave my sister my car. Because you're going to buy me another car. As soon as I get there, you're going to buy me another car. You're going to do all of this. Baby, please. All my daddy did was accept those collect calls. And every time I would say something about money, well, baby, I got to go. And he did keep my son, though, so I did let my son stay there. And so every time he wouldn't say no, he would just say, okay, baby, I got to go. Somebody at the door. I said, this man still won't answer me about this money. And so then I finally get a job. So I said, Dad, I got a job. Okay, well, baby, that's good. I got to go. I said, I need a car to get to work because I was staying in Oak Cliff and my job was out on 635 in Midway. Okay. So I didn't know nothing about riding no bus. So we didn't have public bus there in Tampa. They did. But I never rode a bus because I've always had a car. And so I said, okay, well, let me just do it this way. Daddy, I need a car. That man told me, you grown. Grown people buy their own cars. 2 years. Somebody that had never been without a car in her life. Do you know that I would actually catch a ride to work? Sometimes I'd use my cousin's car to go to work and everything. And then I found out that there was a lady that stayed in Grand Prairie. So she would put me out at Loop 12 in Illinois. And then another girl stayed in West Dallas. She would put me out at Westmoreland and Singleton. Do you know I used to walk? My cousin worked at Vault, and he would drive from Vault off of Jefferson. And I would just walk until I'd meet him, and then he would pick me up. And the thing that motivated me was my grandmother always told us, you can always come home. Don't make that your first choice.
Right.
She said, but you can always come home. And I was determined. I know you think because you ain't going to send me no money, I'm coming home. No, I'm not coming back home. You got the Morris. So for my first time in my life, between 27 and 30, I had to suffer. But I thank God for Concord Baptist Church, because I came here on a Tuesday, and that Sunday I joined Concord Baptist Church. Nice. And I have been there ever since. And when I tell you, had it not been for God showing me to get to Concord Baptist Church, and the way we got there, I asked my cousin, he was so into the Alphas, he wasn't going to church. I said, you've been here since August and you ain't been to church? He said, I said, Mother would kill us if she knew it's February, you've never been to church. He said, no, but a lady came by doing door-to-door witnessing, Vanessa Galloway, and she told me about this church, Concord, down the street from us. He said, so let's go. Okay. I said, I know you better come on, go. For all ancestors wake up and come back and get us. So we went to Concord, and I joined that Sunday. Nice. It was 68 of us.
Wow.
We was on Polk Street, 68 people. Pastor Cullen preached a sermon, Once to Die, the Sunday before Valentine's Day. Okay. And 68 people got up and joined Concord on Polk Street that Sunday.
Wow.
And my life has changed for the better ever since.
So was this inspirational in your becoming involved in the community? Tell us about how you became involved in the community.
So then I did all of that, got into church, met Edna Pemberton, and my life definitely wasn't going to be the same no more after meeting Edna Pemberton.
Okay, tell us, for those of us who don't know, who is Edna
Pemberton, if you don't know, Edna Pemberton is Miss Community, Miss Universe. She's all that in 3 bags of chips. She's my sister friend, and Edna is the person that had faith the size of a mustard seed, that if she felt like God could told her to do it, she was going to do it. Now, we couldn't figure it out, but she was going to do it. And at that time, her and her husband was very active in the NAACP.
Okay.
And so I was really active in church, I was churchy.
Okay.
I was doing everything what thus says the Lord in the church. And I met Edna, and then I got involved in the NAACP. And so after I got involved in the NAACP, I got a little active. So I started, gradually getting into the community. And then I met Henry Akins. Henry was over sickle cell, and me and him worked at Farmers Insurance. So Henry said, Diane, I'm doing this formal cocktail dinner at my house for sickle cell. Then I'm going to do the gala that Saturday. He said, I want you to come. So I had not been to a formal event or anything in Dallas since I had been here. I had been there like 3 years now.
Okay.
And so I told him, I said, well, Doc, I want to go with a man. And so I had only met 3 single men in Dallas. Commissioner John Wiley Price,
okay,
Ken Smith, and Clarence Glover. Those are the only 3 single men I knew. So what I did, I sat down and I wrote a card. And I did a little brief introduction of me. And I said, I need a date for this cocktail dinner party. So Ken said he was out of town. Reverend Glover said that he was going to be speaking in Atlanta. Commissioner Price said, I'll do it.
Okay.
I said, oh, man. And he actually did that Friday night. Oh, I was so nervous because I didn't really know his status then. I'm still the new kid on the block.
Right.
And they was like, Diane, John Wiley Price ain't taking you nowhere because I didn't fit the mold. They said he like them light, bright, almost white. That's what they said. I was none of that.
He gonna kill us.
He is. But here's the thing. If y'all go back and tell him, he'll say, didn't nobody do that but Diane Gibson. You don't even have to try to bust me. He already know it. But he actually accepted the invitation. Perfect gentleman. He was called, during the week and say, we still on? Said to myself, we still on. I'm floating. And so that Friday, he had his assistant, Betty Culbreath, to call me and say,
okay,
I'm running late because I had to go pick my car up out the shop and everything. And I said, okay. Yeah, I got all the people falling out the windows in my neighborhood. They just can't believe John Wiley Price is coming to pick up old Diane Gibson. And so her and I had this lady Antoinette to make me this beautiful fuchsia outfit. Oh, it was perfect.
Thanks for tuning in to Big Texas Boston Podcast. If you like these conversations, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on all social media platforms at Big Texas Boston. Tag us on social at #BTB.